Welcome to a new chapter in our journey through the lives of great composers. Today, we dive into the fascinating, complex, and profoundly tragic story of Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, the Russian genius whose melodies have touched hearts worldwide, but whose life was marked by an inner torment that led to a mysterious end. How could a man capable of creating music so full of life and emotion reach such a dark point that, according to many, he chose to end his own life? Prepare for a tale brimming with passion, pain, triumph, and shadows. Stay until the end, because we'll not only unravel the secrets of his music and life, but also recommend the best books for musicians to inspire you to explore the world of great composers. If you enjoy this video, subscribe now to never miss stories like this one. Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky was born on May 7, 1840, in Votkinsk, a small town in the Ural Mountains, in the heart of Imperial Russia. At that time, Votkinsk was an industrial village, a remote place where life revolved around iron mines. His father, Ilya Petrovich Tchaikovsky, was a mining engineer, a practical man with firm ideas who dreamed of a stable future for his children. His mother, Alexandra Andreevna, of French descent, was a more complex figure. Cultured, passionate about music and poetry, but sometimes strict and emotionally distant. In the Tchaikovsky household, music was ever present. Alexandra played the piano, and Russian folk songs echoed through the cold Ural evenings. This warm but modest environment was the first stage where young Pyotr discovered his love for art. From a very young age, Tchaikovsky displayed extraordinary sensitivity. At 4, he was already at the piano, playing melodies with an ease that astonished his family. By 6, he began composing small pieces, simple yet full of imagination, as if his soul was already seeking expression through sound. His parents, though proud, didn't see music as a serious career. For them, success meant a respectable job like that of a lawyer or civil servant. But then, when Pyotr was just 10, they made a decision that would change his life forever. They sent him to St. Petersburg, hundreds of miles from home, to study at the Imperial School of Jurisprudence. Imagine being a sensitive child, torn from your home, your siblings, your mother's warmth, and sent to a cold, gray, unfamiliar city, surrounded by strangers. This was the first major emotional blow in Tchaikovsky's life, one that left lasting scars. In St. Petersburg, life at the School of Jurisprudence was harsh. The institution was designed to train bureaucrats, not artists. The rules were strict, the environment rigid, and Tchaikovsky, with his dreamy nature, felt out of place. But he didn't give up. In his free time, he played the piano, composed in secret, and dreamed of a different future. Then, at 14, a tragedy struck that shattered him. His mother, Alexandra, died of cholera. For Tchaikovsky, who adored her, it was as if a part of himself had been torn away. In letters years later, he confessed that he never recovered from that loss. Music became his refuge, his way of processing pain, of speaking when words weren't enough. At 19, Tchaikovsky graduated from the School of Jurisprudence and landed a job as a clerk in the Ministry of Justice. It was a monotonous, soulless job that left him feeling trapped. He spent his days copying documents, but at night, he escaped into the world of music, attending concerts and playing at gatherings with friends. Then, in 1861, at 21, he made a decision that changed everything. He quit his job and enrolled in the newly founded St. Petersburg Conservatory, led by Anton Rubinstein, a renowned pianist and composer. Rubinstein was a demanding, sometimes stern man, but he recognized Tchaikovsky's talent from the start. He challenged him to work with discipline, refine his technique, and transform his emotions into music. Under his guidance, Tchaikovsky began to develop his unique voice, blending melancholic and passionate Russian melodies with influences from European composers like Mozart, Beethoven, and Mendelssohn. Tchaikovsky's early works, such as Symphony No. 1, subtitled Winter Dreams, and the 1812 Overture, showcased his ability to create melodies that lingered in the soul. The 1812 Overture, with its cannon fire and bells, was a celebration of Russia's triumph over Napoleon, but also a display of his talent for dramatic orchestration. However, composing wasn't easy for him. Tchaikovsky was fiercely self-critical, and each new work demanded immense emotional effort. He tormented himself, thinking his compositions weren't good enough. And then there was his personal life, which grew increasingly complicated. Tchaikovsky was homosexual in an era and place where this was not only taboo but a crime. In 19th century Russia, being discovered could mean imprisonment, exile, or public humiliation. He lived in constant fear that his secret would be exposed, a fear that haunted every step of his career. But then, in 1877, something unexpected happened. He decided to marry Antonina Miliukova, a young woman who had been his student at the Conservatory. Why did he make this choice? Some historians believe it was a desperate attempt to cure his homosexuality, or at least silence the rumors swirling around him. Others say Antonina, obsessed with Tchaikovsky, pressured him until he relented. Whatever the reason, the marriage was a disaster from day one. Tchaikovsky felt no love for Antonina, and living together plunged him into severe depression. Just weeks after the wedding, he fled to his sister's home in Ukraine, unable to cope. In a moment of despair, he attempted to take his own life by throwing himself into an icy river but was rescued. This episode left a deep scar on his soul, a wound that would never fully heal. If you want to keep exploring the fascinating world of classical music, I recommend checking out the best books for musicians we've selected. They're linked in the description. These books will not only help you better understand composers like Tchaikovsky, but also inspire you to dive deeper into your passion for music. Buying through our links doesn't cost you anything extra, but it helps us tremendously to keep creating content about geniuses like Mozart, Beethoven, and, of course, Tchaikovsky. Take a look. You won't be disappointed. And if you're enjoying this video, subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming stories. But then, as if fate wanted to give him a reprieve, Nadezhda von Meck entered his life. Nadezhda was a wealthy widow, mother of 11, and a passionate music lover. She was captivated by Tchaikovsky's compositions and, in 1877, wrote him a letter offering financial support. Her proposal was unusual. She would provide an annual stipend so he could compose without financial worries, but on one condition: they would never meet in person. Thus began one of the most extraordinary relationships in music history. For 13 years, Tchaikovsky and Nadezhda exchanged hundreds of letters, sharing their deepest thoughts, dreams, and fears. Nadezhda didn't just give him money. She gave him a safe space to be himself, something he rarely found in his daily life. With Nadezhda's support, Tchaikovsky entered one of his most productive periods. He composed some of his most iconic works, like Piano Concerto No. 1, the ballet Swan Lake, and the opera Eugene Onegin. Each piece was a reflection of his soul. Swan Lake, for instance, not only revolutionized ballet with its emotive melodies, but also introduced a deep psychological narrative, unusual for ballets of the time, which were often more decorative than emotional. Eugene Onegin, based on Pushkin's novel, explored unrequited love and regret, themes that resonated deeply with Tchaikovsky. Yet, even amid this success, he couldn't escape his demons. In his letters to Nadezhda, he confessed to feeling lonely, fearing he wasn't living up to his talent, and that music was both his salvation and his torment. In the 1880s, Tchaikovsky began traveling across Europe, presenting his works in cities like Paris, London, and Vienna. Audiences greeted him with enthusiasm, critics praised him, and his fame grew. But then, in 1885, he was appointed director of the Moscow Conservatory, giving him financial stability and a place in society, but also exposing him to more pressures. Russian society was conservative, and rumors about his personal life persisted. Tchaikovsky lived in a constant balancing act between public admiration and the fear of exposure. In 1890, Nadezhda von Meck abruptly cut off contact. No one knows exactly why. Some believe she discovered the truth about Tchaikovsky's personal life and chose to distance herself. Others suggest she faced financial difficulties and could no longer support him. This loss was devastating for Tchaikovsky. Nadezhda wasn't just his patron but also a friend and confidant. Without her, he felt lonelier than ever. Yet he didn't give up. He continued composing, creating works like the ballets Sleeping Beauty and The Nutcracker, which elevated classical music to new heights. The Nutcracker, with its magical world of toys and dreams, is now one of the world's most beloved ballets, though it received mixed reviews at the time. Tchaikovsky, ever insecure, was hurt by the lukewarm reception. In 1891, Tchaikovsky traveled to the United States to conduct his works at the opening of Carnegie Hall in New York. The American audience welcomed him like a star, but he still felt empty. In his letters, he described a deep sense of exhaustion, a constant battle with anxiety and depression. But then, in 1893, he composed his masterpiece, Symphony No. 6, known as Pathetique. This symphony is a portrait of his soul, blending beauty and despair in every note. The first movement is a profound lament, steeped in melancholy. The second, a nostalgic waltz evoking happy memories. The third, a burst of energy that deceives with its optimism. And the fourth, a finale that fades into devastating silence, as if the composer were saying goodbye. On October 28, 1893, Tchaikovsky conducted the premiere of Symphony No. 6 in St. Petersburg. The audience didn't know how to react. The work was too intense, too personal, and many failed to grasp its depth. But then, just 9 days later, Tchaikovsky was dead. The official story claims he contracted cholera after drinking contaminated water at a restaurant. But this explanation has raised doubts for over a century. Cholera was a well-known disease in 1893, and Tchaikovsky, an educated man, knew to boil water before drinking it. Moreover, some witnesses claimed he didn't exhibit typical cholera symptoms, like severe vomiting or dehydration. So what really happened? A darker theory suggests Tchaikovsky took his own life. Some believe the pressure of keeping his secret life hidden pushed him to the edge. Others point to an alleged scandal involving a young Russian noble, possibly a member of the imperial family. According to this theory, a court of honor formed by former classmates from the School of Jurisprudence ordered him to take his life to avoid public disgrace. Some say he deliberately drank contaminated water, knowing it could kill him, or that he took poison, and his death was disguised as cholera to protect his reputation. Evidence is scarce, and Tchaikovsky's letters offer no clear answers. But his writings from his final months reveal a man exhausted, feeling he could no longer keep fighting. Let's take a moment to recap and return to Tchaikovsky's origins. In Votkinsk, his childhood was filled with small moments that shaped his sensitivity. His mother played the piano, and young Pyotr, a curious child, sat by her side, fascinated by the sounds. At 6, he began composing, creating melodies like windows to his inner world. But his parents didn't see music as a serious career. They wanted him to be a respectable lawyer. When they sent him to St. Petersburg, Tchaikovsky faced a world that didn't understand his artistic soul. His mother's death at 14 was a devastating blow that marked him forever. At the Conservatory, under Anton Rubinstein's guidance, Tchaikovsky found his place. Rubinstein was a demanding but visionary teacher who recognized his students' potential. There, Tchaikovsky developed his unique style, blending Russian melodies with Western influences. His early works, like the Romeo and Juliet Overture, showcased his talent for storytelling through music. But his marriage to Antonina Miliakova was a mistake that plunged him into a deep crisis. He wasn't in love with her, and living together pushed him to the brink of collapse. He attempted suicide but was rescued, leaving him even more fragile. His relationship with Nadezhda von Meck was a lifeline. Their letters were a safe space where Tchaikovsky could be himself. Thanks to her support, he composed masterpieces like Sleeping Beauty and The Nutcracker. But when Nadezhda cut off contact in 1890, Tchaikovsky felt abandoned. Despite this, he kept creating, pushing classical music to new heights with his symphonies and ballets. Symphony No. 6 was his musical testament, a work encapsulating his life, a struggle between light and darkness. Tchaikovsky's death remains a mystery. Theories of suicide aren't mere speculation. There are hints in his letters and the accounts of those who knew him. Some believe he deliberately drank contaminated water. Others that he took poison. What's clear is that his life was a constant battle against his fears and the prejudices of his time. Tchaikovsky's legacy transcends his music. His works remind us that art can transform pain into beauty, but they also teach us that even the greatest geniuses are human, with their struggles and wounds. Tchaikovsky didn't just create music. He created a mirror in which we can see ourselves reflected. If you enjoyed this journey through Tchaikovsky's life, subscribe to the channel for more stories about great composers. Don't forget to check the links in the description for the best books on classical music, perfect for musicians and lovers of this art. Your support helps us keep telling these stories. Thanks for staying until the end, and we'll see you in the next video.